I've also been told that you have some of the best work-life balance. How do you not fall into the trap of maybe comparing yourself to others when other people are going at 100 miles an hour?
Of course I do, right? So it's not that I don't at all. I do feel the pressure when, I'm taking time off and my peers are gunning, going for it and selling big. I do feel the pressure. I fully embrace the power pusher mindset, right? That like I'm very project focused. It's less about like the consistency for me and more about like what's the next project? It's the fall, right? We have six weeks left. This is my big crunch time. My goal is to do 118,000 between now and the end of the year, but that's the project right now. That's the focus. Once that is over, I already have a week in the calendar of time off, and that'll be the focus, right? It'll be fun, time off, recouping, recharging the battery. I like to go 100% at whatever I'm doing, whether that's work, whether that's a push period, whether that's time off, just go all in on whatever the project is in front of me.
Thanks for joining us on the CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire podcast. My name is Brett Wiggins, and I get to serve as your host. So what is a CSP? CSP is a Cutco sales professional. There are a lot of them out there, and they've all got a different answer to the question, why do you sell so much? Our mission is to find out the answer to that question from as many of them as possible. These next 60 minutes are designed for Cutco sales reps who desire to learn from our best in the field. So we interview top sales professionals from around the country with questions provided by their peers to make all that happen. 60 minutes of fire means we get straight to the point. Let's do it. Welcome to CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire, episode number 7. We're almost at a full season. We're almost at double digits, Mike. It's a big deal. So excited for our guest today. Somebody who I feel like has come up in the business right alongside me. Come to find out, he started 5 years after me. It took me a little longer to figure it out than it did for him. One of our great Midwest region leaders, Mike Tortora from our Akron, Ohio office and Cavalier division. Anytime Mr. Tortora references a resource or a template, he's going to make it available to us. He's going to share it afterwards, and I'll put it in our resource folder for you. So Mike, if you have any scripts or templates, like we'll talk about mall season a little bit today, and you're like, ooh, cool. And it's like a, 30-minute script or something. Don't feel the need to go into detail now. We'll spend the bulk of our time on our hard-hitting questions the CSP community has put together for you. I want to directly thank those of you who submitted questions for this episode. Some of you on live right now. It would not be very fire without your help. It'd be more like sitting down in a chair right after someone else was in that chair. Like not very fire, more like lukewarm and awkward at best. So I want to thank Chelsea McDougall, Jonathan Sasick. John actually got his questions in for the next 3 speakers already. He just got them all done. I like it. Working ahead of schedule. Jillian Baumeister, Kaiser Schwartz, my man Jordan Thomas, and Colin Herman. So thank you guys so much. Mike, are you ready to jam?
I'm ready for you, Brett. Let's do this.
Let's go. How long have you been selling Cutco, man?
So I've been selling Cutco since 2012, February. I want to say 12th was my start date, like second week in February during a blizzard. So this February would be 11 years I've been selling.
Still showed up. That's how, like, very low launch percentage that week, but the ones who launched sold a lot, I'm sure. What does your yearly sales breakdown look like, Mike? Typically, like booth, business gifts, service, marketing. What's the slices of the pie?
Yeah, so up until 2020, I was primarily a vet rep. I think 2019, about 90% of my sales, I did about 300K that year.
Okay.
90% came from the booth. At this point, the portfolio is a little more diverse. So it's booth sales, service event sales, sale marketing promos, business gifts, and then some service calls.
Nice. Okay. And what other titles do you have in life outside of Cutco? So dad, husband, anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm married. I'm a father. I have a 2.5-year-old. I'm also a certified personal trainer.
So I've got a certified personal trainer question for you. This comes directly from Justin Neefus. And since you brought up your 2.5-year-old already, here's the really important question that CSPs across the nation want to know. How much does your 2.5-year-old bench at this point?
I haven't got him on the bar yet, but he is super freaking strong. So when he gets there, he's gonna be blowing records. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. What's the last fun thing that Mike Tortora did besides slinging blades? It could have been earlier today. It could have been last week, last month. What's the last fun thing that you did?
last big fun thing.
Mhm.
So I got invited to work the State Fair of Texas, number one event in the
Oh,
company. So I
yeah,
got to work that, and my wife and son came down for the last 2 weeks of the fair, and then we did a week-long road trip on the way home. So
dude.
we broke up the trip. It's about a 17-hour drive, but we broke it up into about a week. So we did 2 days Memphis, day in St. Louis, 2 days Chicago, 2 days in Michigan, and then came home. And it was just the three of us. So it was a
Dude,
lot of
as
fun.
a dad, that fills my love tank for you. Like, that's so awesome. And to get invited to work the State Fair of Texas. Now, were you there on the day that College Game Day was there?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it was that
dude.
day.
It just looked nuts. Like when I think of fair, and Indiana has a big state fair, but when I think of fair, I'm assuming I have no idea.
Absolutely wild. We opened an extra hour early that day and closed an hour late. And by 8 a.m. on the fairgrounds, there was like over 100,000 people already walking around at 8 a.m. Yeah,
So the only
we
thing I can compare it to in Indiana, like the Indianapolis 500 had over 1 million people one year. Um, it's like that environment, but a state fair with vendors and things. And
It's like its own city, man. It is so massive. When I brought Lee and Mikey there for our one fair day when I had my day off, we did like an eighth of the fair, and it was a whole day,
so it's
like we barely
genuinely
did the
a
fair.
vacation destination, week long. It's like going to Europe for America. You just you need a whole week. So CSPs out there, just remember, when you're shipping blades, you get invited to do really fun stuff. Go do it. Best year ever for CPO for you, Mike.
Best year ever was last year. I finished the year just under 400,000. It's like
Nice.
398 or something like that.
And what's something in the works? Maybe it's an order, a program, a business relationship. It could be anything that you're excited about it.
Yeah, so I'm really fired up with. I help run the Vast Action Coaching and Mentoring Program with a handful of people, Luke and Josh leading the
Nice.
forefront, and Rob Robincheck. So I'm excited with the changes to the BizGift program for the company, the gifting program that
Yep.
changes this next year. We're really working hard on putting together a curriculum with that. We have a lot of content already, but we're kind of putting some final touches on an actual curriculum for the biz
That's
layer.
awesome, man. There's a lot of buzz about that. And what's really cool is you are literally in a vast action state for a Texas sandwich, because we had Amy Mueller on a few weeks ago. And then we had Dante on last week. And then we got Josh on right afterwards. You are the delicious. I was gonna make an Oreo reference, but I decided to pivot. I reversed. So tell me this. I've been on stage many times with you for SE2 push. And you have this way of growing that push. What feels like, I don't know the stats on it, but it feels like every year you're kind of growing that thing. What's your mindset heading into a big push like that that has allowed you to grow year after year after year after year?
Yeah, so big mindset I have, the way I look at push is a time of the year that you can challenge yourself and really expand your capacity and really show yourself what's possible.
Yeah.
So that's always my goal and my mission every SC2 push is how can I expand my capacity? Because it's amazing when I look back, I had my first 50K push. That was something that expanded my capacity, something I'd never done before. And it really propelled me throughout the rest of the year. If you look at my numbers from that year, I believe it was 3 years ago, it was my first 50K push. Literally from SE2 to the rest of the year, my numbers like tripled. I sold
Mm.
a way more Cutco in that second half of the year than I did the first half. And I truly believe it's because of the push and just the push mindset and the concept of the push, right?
So
So that's
you're
really
just
my
like,
goal, my
regardless of
mission.
like prizes, regardless of trophy, whatever, you're just like, hey, it's an opportunity to push myself and really expand my thinking. I'm going to take advantage of it.
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's so healthy, because it's not attached to any like result, right? Like you can't look at someone else's push and go, oh, I see right there. That's where they expanded their mind. That was the moment. But it's like, when that's your goal, I love that, because I'm not big on like, I don't, I don't love the idea of like tracking daily, hourly, like, okay, we're doing this. Oh, we're behind on this. Oh, we're ahead on this. I like more of a just, hey, can I grow? Can I, by the end of this, grow? And it sounds like that's your really only goal. Now, a lot of trophies come with that, a lot of prizes, a lot of trips, a lot of income, which is, some pretty great byproducts of that. Working with Trent Booth and the Veritas Leadership Group over the last decade has unlocked things within me that I never knew existed until they were coached out of me. If you're listening and you feel stuck or like you have another gear that you're having a hard time getting to, Trent's offering a free intro call to any of our listeners. I love Veritas because it's an amazing combo of mentoring and coaching. I get what I need when I need it most. It's also a flat monthly rate, which is awesome for anyone looking to give it a shot with no contract and no long-term commitment. Schedule a call with Trent today by going to linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's. Would you say you have a recipe or a blueprint that you follow each year when you're creating those big push weeks?
One of my biggest keys to maximize my biz layer is really stacking my biz layer. So,
Okay.
constant thing I'm communicating to any of my biz prospects is July, right? So I'm constantly when I'm closing orders in the fall, I'm basically conditioning them and framing them that, hey, we this was kind of rushed, right? This was really busy, right? Let's get it done earlier, right? And I'm always positioning the summer as the time to get it done because it gets it off their plate, right? They don't have to worry about it in the fall.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about timelines or deadlines. And then we can break it up, right? And we can just split it up over the payment so it's still paid off by Christmas. So everything still works out on the back
Mm.
end, right? Easier for them, easier for me, gives me more time to work with them and personalize it with them. And we're not as rushed.
And if
So that's just a
let's
constant
say
emphasis.
if SC2 wasn't in the summer, would you still position it like that? Do you feel like that's still the best way to get the best result or
I think what it does is it organically creates a longer runway. So for the people that can't gift in July, they're more open now to having conversation in August or September. Where
right,
before they'd be like, call me beginning of December. Right. And
right?
that's a very short timeline, as we all know, being
You're
business
just
owners,
pulling
we're
back
busy.
as
Exactly.
oh, got it.
Right.
Okay.
Let's pull it further back. And now I've even had people that are open to doing in July where, hey, I'll stop in May or June, right? And continue to push that timeline back. So it gives us a long runway so people don't fall in the cracks and we're not at that, second week of December trying to get orders in against deadlines, against shipping, all against inventory
Something I'm
shortage.
realizing talking to anybody who's best in their field in whether it's federal, business gifts, closing gifts, at the booth, you're almost retraining your clientele on how to think about whatever your program is. It's a lot of education, which I know the pessimist out there is going to go, you're brainwashing. No, it's like I'm really trying to educate them on how to do this the best way. Because if you think this was fun and enjoyable and awesome when we had to throw it together last minute because you wanted to write off an extra 10 grand in gifts at the last minute, wait until I give you a month-long experience of doing this the right way and really taking it and having a plan around it versus last minute. Um, it sounds like you're doing a lot of that all throughout the year, just constantly getting them to make sure they're drawing it as far back as possible.
Absolutely.
Would a lot of your
Absolutely.
first time transactions with businesses, sometimes they are the last minute, October, November, December situations, and they turn into ones that are earlier the next time around?
Yeah, I want to say probably 90% plus that close in the fall. As long as I frame and position it, they're open to doing it in the summer.
Cool.
100%.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Um, well, you clearly excel at push weeks and you've used that business gift layer as a really awesome way to help out your SC2 push and pull back their gifting. I've also been told that you have some of the best work-life balance within our CSP community. I personally I find the way I achieve that is through rhythm, not through balance. If I try to sell myself on balance, I'm almost like fighting against natural swings of seasons that I don't need to. But when it comes to you, I think I'll use the term balance just so everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. How do you not fall into the trap of maybe comparing yourself to others when other people are going at 100 miles an hour, what feels like the entire year for every single contest? How do you not do that?
Yeah, so of course I do, right? So it's not that I don't at all. I do feel the pressure when, I'm taking time off and my peers are gunning, going for it and selling big. I do feel the pressure. I really, I fully embrace the power pusher mindset, right? That like I'm very project focused. So it's less about like the consistency for me and more about like what's the next project, right? So for right now, it's the fall, right? We have six weeks left. This is my big crunch time, right? So I was actually breaking down my numbers on a call earlier. My goal is to do 118,000 between now and the end of the year, right? Which would be a big, massive increase in sales, right? It would be growth for the year. But that's the project right now. That's the focus, right? And then once that is over, I have already have a week in the calendar of time off that I'm just spending time with the family, the friends, people that have been hitting me up and reaching out. They're already in the calendar for the fun activities we're going to do after that big push period. And that'll be the focus, right? It'll be fun, time off, recouping, recharging the battery, and then all of a sudden January will hit and I'll be back into a push period of sales, of shows, of key events, our big home show, all of that. Right. So it just kind of that's my ebb and flow. It's really I like to go 100% at whatever I'm doing, whether that's work, whether that's a push period, whether that's time off, I like just go all in on whatever the project is in front of me.
I love that you said that because I think a lot of people see somebody like you who's built a pretty awesome life and they use the term work life balance and they envision you having the same schedule every week. And the reason I'm so glad you answer the way you do is because my response to people like that is it's rhythm, man. There are times of the year where I have a conversation with my wife and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing blank, this, whatever the January program for us coming up. Winter break is, I can create something really, really great development wise for the summer. It also impacts my end of the year bonus, XYZ. What are you okay with me committing to outside the outside the realm of normal? So we have the freedom and we can do blank in February or whatever. And then there's times where I'll go to my pilot manager and I'll say, hey, my daughter's starting school in August. I'm going to start doing drop off and pickup before and after. My work day is pretty much 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the next 4 months. That's the rhythm I'm in right now. But hey, let me tell you this. Here's what's going to create come December when we're in. And it's more of a constantly kind of shifting that balance versus the same thing over and over. How, when it comes to staying motivated when you're project based and you are running your own race, I think a lot of people use the Cutco created contests to stay motivated, which is, I think it works when you're new really, really well. But then eventually you're like, oh, that life ain't for the long-term CSP usually. What's keeping you motivated on a daily basis when you're in that project work mode?
Yeah. So, I think it's always about we learned in our first push period, right? Our first 10 days on the job, your why, right? It's all about your why,
Yep.
and a big why for me is my family. That's something I constantly reflect on and lean to. Why am I working so hard if not to create an amazing lifestyle with my family, right? With my closest, my loved ones, right? So I know by working hard today and working hard at this event and doing the calls now, that's gonna, like you said, open up those times in the future that will create those magical moments, right? Like
Yeah.
we just booked a trip in April for a friend's wedding in Dominican Republic, right? And that'll be like
Nice.
a week long like fun vacation celebration. We just booked that on Friday, and that was once again that's a byproduct of the hard week from the fair season, right? From the earnings I've made over the last month was able to have that experience out in the calendar, and that's something we're going to look forward to. We're going to be excited about every single week until it gets here.
And when you, I don't know, when you're like Texas State Fair as an example, let's say your son, maybe a little bit older and had some big event, maybe his first little league game or something was in the middle of that. And when it would have caused you this conflict, this tension of, ah, do I say no? When you do decide to say no to something like that, that is a big opportunity for your business, but you decide you've got something else more important. What allows you the confidence and the willingness to say no at certain times to certain stuff?
Yeah, I think what allows that is really just the one of the amazing things about our business that we have complete control over it. And I know that if I lower this lever over here, the CPO lever, I can crank this lever over here, right? In a different
Right.
time frame, in a different,
Just
you know,
absolute abundance mindset.
Yeah, if I can't pull this lever, no big deal. I'll pull this lever over here and we'll make up the CPO in this time of the year.
So it's not, oh, I guess I won't have that CPO. It's, oh, I guess I'm going to find a different way to get it.
Exactly. I'm going to create
Oh,
it through a different layer, a different avenue. You know,
I love how
I'll
quick
double
that
down on
was
my
your
skill set,
response too. Like I
right?
can tell this is a normal thing you do regularly. You're just, okay, how else am I going to do it?
Right. Can I
How,
double down on my skill set to then increase my average order by 30% to then make up that CPO, right? Like, like that's the conversation I have in my head.
so healthy. So much more healthy than I think the conversation many reps have of like, oh, I have to say yes. I can't pass this up. How did your personal and professional big rocks, your projects that you're talking about, um, how do you decide what those are going to be? And then how do you make sure you honor those whenever, because it's easy to talk about right now, but when the bullets start flying, I don't know what busy season is for you. It sounds like now's busy season within the business. Maybe there's a busy season at home where you're not available as much work wise. Like, how do you honor those big rocks that you chose once those bullets start flying?
It's a great question, Brett. So how do I honor the big rocks? I think it first comes down to just setting boundaries, right? What are your boundaries? What are your non-negotiables? Right? What are you going to stand behind that's going to ultimately, keep you elevated, right? That's I guess that's really what it comes down to me, like
Mm,
if if I know that this time off with the family, is that important to me, I'm going to set boundaries around that schedule that doesn't allow that to take over that time,
mm,
right?
mm. Yeah, boundaries are huge. Got to set them ahead of time beforehand, right? I think we teach people how available we are based on our response. Like I used to be, oh, everybody always texts me all the time. They're calling me at 10 p.m. And then I feel like somebody asked me, like, well, do you reply? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, that's why you're teaching them you're available at those times. Um, what's your strategy and mindset behind this time of the year when it comes to like servicing clients around the holidays? And I don't want to say not letting it affect your sales because service should create CPO, right? But promising clients service, especially when they want it in November and December, but then not letting it affect your CPO goals. I feel like a lot of CSPs, they feel like they're stuck trying to do right by their customers when they market service this time of the year, but then also like having these big end of the year goals. How do you feel like you get both done?
Yeah. So my service program for the fall, it's really simple actually. So I do a 2 day service event in November, right before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Basically, like, hey, here's your last shot to get things touch up before we get down to Thanksgiving and stuff. And then during the mall program, I offer service for the clients for the malls. It's a little bit different than other times of the year, so it
Mhm.
is limited, right? So it's like bringing your 5 knives that need the most service into the event. That way, I don't have to worry about someone bringing an ultimate with flatware chest and all that kind of stuff, right?
Oh,
So
love it.
I
Okay.
limit how much they can bring, but I know that if I sharpen their 5 favorite knives, that'll get them through the holidays, right? They'll be happy at Christmas because they'll be using their chef knife and their Santoku and everything. So I offer that. It's a way to get them service. They feel taken care of. They at least have an option, but then allows me to then, show them products, right? They'll come
Sure.
in, their 5 favorites, we'll sharpen them. Hey, I noticed that your Santoku is completely destroyed. This is what I'd recommend to help save this Santoku, right? Are you using this on meat? Oh, absolutely. Right. We have that conversation. And then I always do a big service push in January. So January is my hardest service month of the year. It's kind of how I kick off my year.
Mhm.
So everyone from the malls all holiday season, I drive into those events. Usually for the last 2 years, off the top of my head, I want to say I get between like 30 and 50 people signed up for those events at the malls, right? So usually about 30 to 50 appointments from there. And then I layer on the marketing and then offer that for all my clients, right? So,
Is
and I
January
hit
one
kind of
of
all of
your,
those.
would it be one of your slower times if it weren't for that service season?
No, we have several key events in
Okay.
January. I really like the concept of starting January and February off really big. Those are
Yeah.
two of my biggest months to get the year going right.
Makes
Um, the
sense.
I want to say this year I was already over 100K by like the end of February,
When you've
right?
got that
So
momentum and that wind at your back, the rest of the year, you're bullish on what's possible for the rest of
right.
the year. So
Well,
so for go ahead.
what I like, kind of how I see it, is like the fall is my time to grind and get really good. So why then take time off and like let those skill sets go back down. They're already very high, so let's capitalize on that and let's continue that momentum into January and February to make the most out of all the hard work I just put in for the,
Right.
the November December timeframe.
So for you, it's like, it's not you don't service, it's like you adapt your service style while you're at the mall. Obviously, I hope CSP is listening to know, like, all malls have different rules on what people are allowed to bring in, out, whatever. But I love the fact that you're not having people bring in ultimate sets, causing like, what the heck's going on over there, and how long that's going to take. 5 favorite knives so we can get you through the holiday season. And then it's almost like, hey, let me schedule you for service after this crazy mall season. It sounds like everybody can be happy with that. There's an option for everyone. If you need it and you know you need it, and you've been my client for more than a year, you know you got to do it before Thanksgiving. So you better get scheduled now. And if not, here's your options. Love it. While you're at the mall, I want to get into that because I've heard you run a pretty awesome mall program. If you're still tracking and categorizing all your own expenses, I have a message from your CPA. Stop. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are your goals include growing your sales. And one way to do that is delegating admin responsibilities by trading time for money. Rising Stock and MyBooks.pro is exactly what you need. Rising Stock is an all-encompassing financial tracking and coaching program, where MyBooks.pro is exactly what it sounds like. They just do your books. You can choose to just have them track your expenses or take advantage of everything they have to offer. Do your business and your CPA a favor by scheduling a free intro call today at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the 2 E's. How do you upserve Christmas gifts at the mall and at the booth? So I'm sure you have plenty of your current clients that show up for Christmas gifts. When somebody's not there for a Christmas gift, what's that conversation like? What's that transition like?
Specifically on upserving or just talking about gifts in general?
Talking about gifts in general, probably.
Yeah, so I think it first comes down to identifying why they're here at the mall today. What
Mm,
brought you to the mall today, right? Who are we shopping for? I like to get the names out there, right? So I'm looking for a gift for my brother. Oh, what's your brother's name? Oh, Tom. Yeah. Start having a conversation about Tom. The goal for me is always to find the person that's the hardest to shop for and get a gift for them first, because everybody else is going to seem a lot easier then if we get the
mm,
hardest one out of the way right away, and the customer is going to feel the most stress relieved, right? If we can take care of the person, they're just like, oh my god, how am I going to find a gift for this person? They're so
right,
hard to shop for. They don't like anything that anyone ever buys them. They return everything. If we can get that person taken care of, everyone else is like so much easier. Oh yeah, they'll
right.
love. If he's going to love it, they're going to love it, right? And then once we nail that first person down, then we just continue that conversation. Who else do we have shop for? And then that's where we start bringing the family program and pitching multiple gifts and bundling and discounts
Do
and
you
all
have
that.
any idea like what's the I mean that's just we teach continuers to our reps in training, like when building rapport. Like you ask a question, they answer, and then you ask a question about their answer. What's your longest string of like gifts for one conversation? Do you have any idea how many gifts, how many people have been taken care of in one?
So, it wasn't at the malls, but actually earlier this year, a customer of mine hit me up in the summer and came to a service event, and we did shopping for 7 different people at the service
So
event.
awesome, man. So great. What now, can you speak to the upserving side of that? Like somebody bought, whether it's at the booth at the mall, I guess doesn't matter, but it is around the holiday season. Do you wait until and you upserve? Is it part of the initial just package always, so it's not even an opportunity, or
Are we talking about multiple people or just one person?
one person?
As it gets a little tricky when you're talking about multiple people, because then you get into the budget, and I only spend
Sure,
this much per person, all getting kind of the
sure.
weeds. But let's say mom is buying for her son, right? It's a very simple situation. We run into it every single year, right? So buying for her son. Once I initially lock down that first gift of whatever we're talking about today, like, yeah, give me the credit card, right? Game on. From there, I asked it kind of a series of questions to get her in the mindset and basically get her to tell me that she would want to continue to do this, right? So it first kind of leads into like, yeah, so, so let's say your son, really likes this gift. Could you see yourself maybe getting him more stuff in the future? Right? She says yes to that. Okay, great. Yeah, and then from there, once like once we basically get her open to the concept that she would continue to do this, like yes, a lot of my customers tell me that. So what a lot of my customers like to do is they'll actually bundle their gifts together with this gift so we can get the max savings on it. And then the
Mm.
great thing is you don't have to give it all at once. We can actually piece this gift out over the next 5 or 6 different gifting occasions. And now his birthday's taken care of, the anniversary's taken care of, next Christmas is taken care of. And the great thing with Cutco is there's no shelf life, it doesn't expire. You just put it in the closet and it's ready to go when you need it, right? Um, and you can use a similar kind of framework when you're talking about buying gifts for like multiple occasions, right? So, like, I had a lady that kept buying one-off salad mates for wedding gifts, right? One at a time, maybe two at a time, and then the last home show, I got her to do 10 gifts. And the whole big thing was she noticed the price keep going up, and I'm like, yeah, prices only ever go up. She's like, this is kind of my budget. I don't think I'm really going to be able to continue to do this. And then I pitched the family program and the concept, hey, if we get, 5 or 10 gifts, we can actually bundle them and we can get you the pricing that you used to pay when a couple years ago, right? And then kind of got down to her budget, and then she ended up doing 10 gifts just to keep within that budget that she's used to spending,
Dude,
right?
when you are truly wanting to serve others and you've got a great product, there's a creative way to get it done, is what I'm learning in these conversations. Is like, you're just immediately like, okay, cool. How do we fix this problem? Let's fix the problem. I feel like with malls in comparison to, I'm just going to say shows to keep it simple, there's something, at least on my teams that I help, there is a mindset block. There's something causing them to view malls so much differently, or I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the key is to view them differently. What do you think is the issue for the rep that crushes at the booth, but really struggles at the kiosk? Like, what do you think is most often wrong?
So I think the first thing, I think the really the only difference with malls is just a different mindset and mentality when it comes to the malls. Now, one thing I will touch on, if you guys still are using carts and carom use and all that kind of thing, I would
Mhm.
encourage you guys to move out of that and into more of a traditional table setup like we use at other events.
Okay.
We've noticed that all of our malls that we've done that, our sales organically just from going from that setup to our traditional setup, we sell a lot more. I think the one mall boosted by 50% just from that one switch we did with
Wow.
no other changes. Right. So I would highly encourage that. And there's different strategies and ways. And, we can
Sure.
talk offline of that, of
Yeah.
how to make that happen. We've done it at both our Kia malls and it's led to great sales because of that.
Awesome.
But to get back to your original question, it just comes to the mentality. I find that a lot of reps that have struggles with malls, it's because the malls are very busy, but they're not very busy. Right. They see all this activity and all these people walking around shopping around them, but they don't feel busy because they're not talking to anybody, right? And that can wear people down, especially multiple days in a row of that, right? If it's like, wow, the mall's busy, but I'm not talking to anybody, right?
It's
So I
almost
think that's
worse than
the
the mall being dead.
yeah, right. You're like, there's all this opportunity out
Like, you
here,
see,
but I
it's
have
like
no
when you're
opportunity,
when you're
right?
single, you just got broken up with, and it feels like every single one of your friends is posting about their awesome relationship, and you're like, someone love me, man. What's going
Right.
on?
So I think it goes down to the mentality, right? I very much embrace the 5 to Thrive concept when it comes to the malls, right? I know that I don't need to talk to every single person in the mall to make them all a great day. I just need to have 5 quality interactions today to make it a great day. And that really comes down to my skill set and my confidence within my ability. That as long as I have 5 quality turns today, I'm going to make it a great day, regardless of how busy or slow the mall is. Right. So I think that's the first kind of key concept of it. And then I think the next thing is just you have to engage a little bit differently, right? Because people aren't just walking right by you like at a home show, right? They're not walking up and down the aisles looking at every vendor. They're on a mission, right? They came to the mall usually for a very specific reason, right? We
Right,
came
right.
here, we're gonna grab our Starbucks, we're gonna go to this store, get this for Tommy, and we're out, right? And we're going to
Dude,
this
it's
mall,
so
right?
funny
And
you
we're
say
going to
that,
this.
because whenever we go to a mall, which is rare now, we have like, we've got an agenda. And if anybody tries to throw us off of that agenda, including the guy with the lotion that's going to make my hands feel like they were
The Dead Sea
straight out of the
lotion.
womb, like, it's like, no, dude, stiff arm, done. It's an important expectation to have, right?
Right. So you get it, right? You've been there, you've had that mindset, you've had the mentality. That's how every other customer there is at the mall, right? So we have to get good at understanding like they're not there for us, right? We're there to happen upon us, right? But I think it really comes down to engaging correctly, right? So one thing I actually learned at the State Fair of Texas is when you look at someone and you wave to them, subconsciously we think that they know us, right? So like subconsciously, we in our mind are thinking like that person must know me. So we very naturally will look at that person, and whether we know him or not, we'll just kind of smile, hey, right? Kind of look over at him, right? Like what's going on here, right? So I found that's a great way to slow people down as they're speeding by, right? Hey, hey, we're cutting deals, right? And throwing a wave out there. A lot of people will at least turn, look, acknowledge us, right? See what's going on in our direction, right? I think it's also just about having fun, right? Being the guy that's telling the cheesy knife jokes, right? Being the guy that's laughing and having fun. If I'm walking around kind of stressed out shopping and stuff, and I see a guy just having a good time, laughing, I'm much more likely to talk to them than the person like sitting on their phone, the person that's not smiling, the person that's just staring through people, like waiting for their shift to end,
Dude, you were
right?
like, because when the lotion guy, as annoying as it is, I am even more mad at the guy or girl sitting behind the cash register on their phone staring at it while there are literally people at their kiosk looking at stuff. I'm like, what? Stop it. I just want to like shake them. Um, so a lot of it, Mike, it sounds like is you have put yourself in the average mall attendees' shoes and ask yourself, what are they thinking? What are they there for? And how can I adapt to them versus expecting them to adapt to me?
100%, right?
Awesome. Last thing on malls. If someone's working them for the first time this year, what's the one thing you want to tell them to avoid doing while they're working their shifts or in preparation or anything to do with malls?
One thing to avoid doing.
Yeah.
So I think that one big key I could say is understanding if you're talking to a prospect or a suspect, right? Because the malls are so busy and there's anyone and anyone at the mall, right? I mean, there's no barrier to entry; it's free.
Yep.
So I mean, there could be 13-year-old kids running around being silly, playing and stuff. There could be 9-year-old ladies. There could be anywhere in the middle, right? So I think a big thing, people will be at the mall, they'll be talking to someone at the mall, and they think that they're talking to a prospect, but they're really a suspect. We really don't know if there's someone that could buy Cutco or in the market for Cutco. So I think it gets really good at how can we, within 2 minutes of talking to this customer, identify if they're an actual prospect versus suspect, and do I need to continue with this person, or should I cut them loose to engage another quality person walking around because the fast-paced, busy environment.
So that 2-minute rule, when you decide, okay, this is a suspect, what's that transition feel like? If I'm your suspect and you realize, oh, okay, this is not a prospect, but I know there's a bunch coming. What does that feel like if I'm me? How do you do that gracefully?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I go to is asking very direct buying questions, right? So
Mm,
I'm gonna ask, hey, or if you guys saw something you really like today, could you budget 200 to 300 bucks on it today,
I
right?
love that. You're letting them disqualify themselves almost.
Yeah,
You never have to be like, hey, by the way, I'm not actually trying to sell to you. See you later. It's like, hey, here's what it costs. Are you in or out?
yeah, because if they answer, yeah, we're in the market, yeah, we
Right.
have the budget for it, great. Now I know that this is no longer a suspect, this is a prospect, and I'm gonna go all the way, right? Now if they, like you said, disqualify themselves out, hey, no worries, guys, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions, if you want to place an order, just let me know, right? And then from there, I'm
Love
just
it.
gonna kind of change my body language, position it right, start looking at someone else, make myself busy doing something else,
And I
polishing,
think what's
whatever.
so important about that is a lot of reps know the right thing to do is not spend extra time on that interaction. They just don't know how to leave it, like I said, gracefully. And I think that's a beautiful way to do it. Okay, what's one thing that you would tell the first time mall working rep to make sure no matter what they do when they're working shifts this small season?
While they're working or prepping.
Whatever you feel would be a more better answer for them.
More better answer. First thing I would say, so there's a couple things I can give you.
Go ahead.
First thing I would say is we got to be nails, right? We got to be 10 out of 10 in confidence, in our scripts, and handling objections, right? Because there will be some slow days in the mall, right? Where we only do get one or two opportunities today. And I want to be so confident that I know, hey, as long as I talk to one person on the slow mall day, that's going to be, an ultimate with steak knife sale, upser flatware chest, boom, there's my 4 or 5K order right there in the day, right? Have that confidence. That's going to make or break, right? Those slower days when you don't have as many turns. So yeah, really doubling down your skill set, listening to
Mm.
audios, listening to talks, practicing with your booth mate, all of that kind of stuff. And then I know I already said it before, but really the engaging. Anyone who's walking around with a lot of bags, that's someone we need to be saying hi to because they are in the shopping and the buying atmosphere, right? They're buying, they're shopping, they're spending
The
money,
seal has been
they're ready to go,
broken. Yeah.
right? Families, husbands and wives, Mac customers, right? So husbands, wives with kids and stuff. Like it's even less so just pulling them, but also, having fun and pulling the kids over, right? Hey, you want to see a cool magic trick? You got a penny on you,
Dude,
right?
if
Stuff like
someone is
that.
being nice to my kid, um, I'm done. I'm done. I'm like, all right, like how much is it? And what is it? like if someone is helping my kid, like as a dad, you can relate. Like if someone is making my kid smile, like they are already my friend. They're getting invited to the barbecue. They're gonna like it's over. So you don't because I think sometimes people view when there's kids involved, it's like, oh man, I gotta get over this hurdle of their kids being crazy or whatever. You're like, dude, just embrace that.
Yeah, the kids aren't going to go away, right? If we don't want them to be there, they're going to be there regardless. If I can tie them in and make sure they're having fun with us, the customers, like you said, just we're going to automatically have rapport, right? I'm going to start talking about my kid. They're going to talk about their kid. We're going to have this great connection. It's going to lead right into the sales cycle,
Yep.
right? So that's the first thing. I love it when I can get the kids customer so much on my side that they're like, "Mom and Dad, you gotta buy from this guy. This guy's awesome. You gotta get it. These knives are cool. We gotta get these right." Like if you have that kind of influence, like
Yeah,
they're
man.
way more likely to say yes when like the family, the kids, everyone's like, "We gotta
Sometimes
do
that's
this,"
even
right?
better than the past customer walking up. Like that's golds. That might be
Right,
platinum. The kids putting
right,
pressure on. You got to get the free scissors that cut a penny. Come
right.
on. For someone who wants to get into business gifting for the first time, there is so much buzz around I don't even know. What's the new actual title is it business gifting? Is everything business gifting now? What's
I think it's going to be just Cutco gifting.
Cutco gift? Okay. So around gifting in general, what's just one first step that you'd say will get them moving in the right direction if they've never done anything with it before?
If they've never done anything with it before, I think it comes down to um, I'll give you two things. One
Mhm.
would be qualifying because there's a lot of business owners out there that are not qualified. And I know my first couple years getting into business gifting, there's a lot of people that I would get their information, I would follow up, and then ultimately, after I spent all this time and energy into it, it came out that they actually weren't very interested, right? They told
Right.
me to follow up, but their interest was a 1 out of 10, and it was a 0 out of 10 by the time I actually talked to them, right? So identifying who to actually spend time on and not chase these people that we in our mind are like, oh, they have a huge company, they have a lot of money, they're gonna be a great prospect. But then comes down to it, they're like, yeah, so we have like a $20 per person budget. Do you have anything in that budget? We give like
Right.
mugs away, right?
Right.
Like, no, that's not going to be someone that
At
fits our
what
market,
point do you
right?
decide that a lead like that is worth re-educating on gifting versus pushing to the side? Is it a question? Are you open-minded to something different? Like when do
Mhm.
you decide, okay, I need to move on to somebody else versus I need to spend maybe one more shot at this?
Yeah, so if it depends on the situation, of course, but in that example, right, that someone that seems qualified, everything we're checking all the boxes, but the budget's not there, right? They're just used to gifting kind of chintzy, kind of throwaway items,
Sure.
right? I think it comes down to like asking them to like, so what is your real goal with your gifting, right? Like kind of identifying like what are they trying to actually accomplish here and showing them that what they're doing is not accomplishing that. And it's actually not
Mm.
even aligned with that, right? So once we establish that to kind of reframe their thinking, then we ask a question of like, hey, so Brett, I mean, would you be, open to doubling or tripling your budget to 10x your return on those gifts?
Got it.
And if someone says yes to that, they're open to changing their thinking and doing stuff differently, right? If that's a no, hey, no worries. It just sounds like we're not going to be a great fit. I'd be happy to check in with you next year to see if anything changes, but keep my information. We could stay in contact, right? And just kind of let them go from there. Keep them on
Got
like
it.
an email drip or something like that. Mhm.
Love it. Are there 3 or 4 indicators that tell you somebody is a prospect for business gifting versus a suspect that you can identify pretty quickly?
A prospect would be someone who already gifts, right? Has a budget of at least $100 per gift, right? Those are kind of the two main requirements, right? So they already do some form of gifting. I
Yep.
find it's a lot more challenging to someone who doesn't do any gifting to gift, opposed to someone who does something currently to do something more high end or more
Right.
like us, right? So
Yep.
that's kind of the first barrier of entry, and then of course the having at least $100 budget. If they have less than that, we can still work with it. But our goal, the reason we use at least 100 is we want to get a knife to their employees or clients, right? Yes, we can do pizza cutters. Yes, we can do ice cream scoops. But what is the most impressive thing about Cutco? It's how it cuts, right? So getting that trim in their hands, getting that Santoku in their hands is going to make such a big difference and such a big difference for the impact of it, right? And logo and all that good stuff. So
Sure.
those would really be the first two primary things, right?
Awesome. Okay. Let's say somebody's tried, and for our listeners, not watchers, I'm using air quotes. They've tried business gifting, okay, before, and it didn't happen. Didn't stick, whatever reason. Maybe it's a CSP. They had a bunch of huge client lists. Like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. We've all given things a shot. We're not really doing it, right? What's your advice for that person?
Yeah, so I mean, if it's something that you truly have passion in and a layer that you actually want to build within your business and make it a long term, you see the long term vision of it. I think anyone who gets into business gifting for like the short term concept, right? Like, oh, I could have a 10K order, I could have a 30K order or a 100K
Mm,
order. Like, that's not what you're looking at, right? You're looking at that long-term vision of how can I make this layer sell 500 to $1 million, 500,000 to $1 million in my business? How can I make that a reality? How can I take myself and how can I turn my business into more of a 9 to 5, right? Like that kind of concept is really kind of that long-term vision. But yeah, I would say double down on the knowledge of it, right? So of what I've seen being in business gifting for the last 5 years is just the evolution of it, right? Just like any part of our business, right? When we first started doing events, right, compared to now. When we first started doing realtor
Oh, dude,
gifts
I was a
compared to
part
now,
of an events team in
right?
2007. Shout out Janet Wiggins. Yeah, it's come a long way, Mike. Come a long
Right.
way. Yeah.
So we are just at the ground level of business gifting, right? It's really just getting going. So I would say double down on your knowledge and your learning, right? Find a mentor, find a coach, find someone that can help you. Because we can all see it, right? And there's a reason there's such a big buzz around it is because it is the future of Cutco. I mean, 10 years from now, it's going to just explode. I mean, it's going to be, every
We've been
business
looking
has
for
heard
a
of
way to
us.
double vector sales for a long time. I think everybody recognizes this is it. This is
Oh yeah.
this is it. Yeah. So what you're saying is that if I'm the CSP out there that went, dude, there's got to be somebody that knows at least one business owner that's going to place a 20K order. If that's your objective, probably not going to work out.
Yeah, no. That's pretty good.
And what's silly is that, like, it's so much more than that. Like, if your focus is 20K, you're missing already, right?
Right.
That's my 10-minute reminder. So this flies by, man. 60 minutes, my
I
goodness.
know, man. We've been
60
jamming.
seconds.
Yeah, I'll give you
Any,
one mentality thing with that,
please.
real quick before we move on. Is like,
Yeah.
so my mentality more is like, how can I create $100,000 clients, right? How can I create instead
Mm,
of like, if we think residentially, without getting into like family gifts stuff like that, really 10K or around that number, right? Cutco Kitchen is kind of where we're
mhm.
tapping people out before they're starting to buy for others. So my long term vision with business gifting is how can I create $100,000 plus clients, and how many of those can I get under my portfolio, right? Is kind of the long term vision there.
Wow. And when you say $100,000, do you mean like a career
Yeah,
client
like a
CPO
client.
number?
Yep.
How many
Yeah, like a
people can I get
client
to 100?
that's spent at least $100,000 with me or more.
Yeah, that's a little bit more than 10. That's a little
Yeah.
bit more than 10. What systems do you have in place for business gifts that you would say are your bread and butter? Like, where do you get the most leads? What's follow-up look like? Do you have a certain time of the year that you do that? It sounds like it's July is when you try to close. You try to pull that back as much as possible. But what type of systems are generating leads for you and the best follow up?
Yeah, so leads, my two main lead sources would be events, and then my current biz clients. So asking for referrals from my current biz clients. So is the number one, number two way I get my majority of my leads, right? As far as time frame goes, really May, June, July are kind of my time frame for early gifting, right? Get people on that middle of the year gifting, and then October, November, December, right? So those are kind of my
I love the
three.
middle of the year gifting too, because if they do, I have no idea. Do most of these businesses, do they do in full? Do they do 5 pays? What does that look like?
Um, I find so my business is kind of similar to Rob's business, where I have a good chunk of Amish clients. I
Mhm.
find that majority of my Amish clients pay in full, right? They're
Yep.
just kind of like it's going to come out one way or another,
Yep.
right? They're not as much like kind of monthly budgeters. It's more
Yep.
like here's the money for the year kind of thing. I find my more my English, right, non-Amish clients will break it up.
Got it.
I want to say probably I want to say around 100% of them that do gifting like in June or July, they break it up over this, over the months. So that way it's all paid off. Because the way I position it is like it matches up with your cash flow,
Yep.
right? Rather than trying to cut that big check in November, December, let's do in July. And then it just comes out monthly, just like the rest of your bills, rest of
Comes
your
out
cash flow.
monthly. All
You
the
don't even notice it.
expenses are still in this calendar year, so that counts towards this P&L. Just makes sense. Yeah, coming up in the business, so Napanee is a hot spot Amish community in Indiana, like 40 minutes from where I grew up. Dog, I got into an Amish community and it was one of the most, yeah, there's Kaiser, just that's his home base. Beautiful thing. Almost all, by the way, back in the day, cash, had to write a check for, like, it was just the best. It was always got food. Always got to pet a pig. Always got to pet a pig or something. Um, okay, so most of your leads are coming from shows. So let me ask you this. Um, do you have a 30-second pitch for someone that that has identified themselves as a business owner that you do at the booth that you could do for us right now?
So let me clarify that. So
Yep.
I've identified their business owner,
Hmm.
right? And then
Yep.
how am I going to intro the gifting is what you're
You
saying?
got it.
Yeah. So I find majority of the way that I just, if I don't ask them, I'm always looking for clues. So like, what are they wearing? Do they have a branded hat on? Do they have a branded shirt
Mm,
on? Does their credit card have a, da 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 incorporated on it? Right. Like, what are the signs that tell me this is a business owner without just asking if it's a business owner? Right.
sure.
I also, the more I do this, the more I've kind of come to like realize business owners are most of the time they're very direct, right? They're very like
Yep.
into business, right? They understand like negotiations, the business, everything like that. So those are things I'm looking for as well. But regardless, somewhere in the conversation, at the very least, at the end when I like get the credit card, I'm asking like, yeah, so what do you all do? Do you own a business? And I usually will ask it like that, like, what do y'all do? Do you own a business? Just kind of very assumptive, like you must be a business owner, right?
Dude,
Um,
honestly, when somebody asks it to me that way, I kind of puff out my chest like, oh, I must look like I own a business. Let's go. All right. I must have given off some aura, but you're right. They probably saw my card. It said, Brett Wiggins and Associates, and I'm the idiot. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, no, that's almost like a subconscious thing that I'm doing there is
Yeah.
like building them up, right? Because if they
Yep.
are a business owner, they take a lot of pride in that, right?
For
So,
sure.
so we asked that question, right? We identify their business owner. From there, I'm going to ask kind of a couple, questions just to get more information before I actually go into the pitch, so I can kind of help frame the pitch, right? So, oh, that's awesome, man. How long y'all been in business?
5 years.
5 years, dude. That's awesome, man. 5 years, especially like during this COVID time period, that says a lot about you that you've been, that you made it through COVID and you guys are still doing very, very well. What all do you do?
We do like promo products for different businesses, some trophies. We do some shirts, embroidery, just anything that people want to put their stuff on.
Oh, okay, awesome. So
That was a
promotional stuff.
horrible example for this role play, by the way. My brain literally went to like, oh, my trophy guy. All right, let me talk about my trophy guy. Reverse.
Yeah.
We bake home baked goods. We cater home baked goods.
Okay, so you're a bakery. You do
Yeah.
catering stuff.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And is it just you and your wife? Do you have business partners or?
Me, my wife. I mean, to be honest, kids help out every now and then. But yeah, not a
Kind of
huge
family.
production. There's some like if we have a certain job that's going to call for a lot of hands, we got some friends that we can call on, but no other official employees or anything like that.
Okay. That's awesome. But you and your wife kind of run it, and it's kind of
Yep.
family owned and operated. Maybe have some cousins help out or stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you got it.
Okay. That's awesome, man. And how many clients do y'all have?
Oh, geez. So we just hit the 400 marks. We've 400.
That's awesome. Is it like so do you guys bake and then put it in like big stores like Giant Eagle and Walmart and stuff like that? Is it more like mom and pops, or I know you said
More mom and
GDC?
pops, big corporate parties and events and things like that.
Okay, awesome, man. Great. So I'm curious, do you do any kind of appreciation gifting for your clients?
I mean, we've done like gift cards. I want to say we've done some like baskets and things like that to some of our bigger clients
Okay.
before. We're not very strategic about it, but we do it
Okay. And it sounds like especially your big clients, like they kind of use your service year after year kind of thing, right? They
for
kind of come
sure.
back. Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Says a lot about you guys and your service you provide, that people want to come back and continue to use your service year after year, right? So at this point now, I've gathered information, right? So I kind of understand, like, am I going to pitch for clients or employees? Basically, it's all family owned, so we're
Got
going to
it.
go the client route, right? They've been in business 5 years, so they're not like here today, gone tomorrow. They've been around, right? So which I can celebrate and talk about that with them. I understand a little bit about their market, right? So they're a bakery, right? They don't have huge margins. It's not like they're selling like gigantic industrial equipment, right? So I have to be mindful of that. Their budget's probably smaller than like a big corporate account kind of thing.
Oh
Um,
man, and again, I'm sure there are CSPs listening like, yeah, Brett, that's normal stuff. I'm blown away at how much you've already learned about me and my business that quickly shifted from a trophy and promo business to bakery. Uh, that's awesome. I mean, that's within 3 minutes. You've learned about them so you can pitch them correctly.
Yeah, because so in this situation, if I didn't ask those questions and I just started pitching the gifting, and I'm talking about employees,
Yeah,
well, you're gonna in your mind you're gonna go, well, we're family owned. It's just me and the kids. We
right.
don't need this,
If
right? And you're
somebody
gonna kind
did
of shut it
have
down.
100 employees and 10,000 clients, would you go employees first? Do you pitch both at the same time or
So I generally I'm gonna go like if they have a good market for both, I'm gonna kind of pitch both of them, and I'm gonna let them kind of tell
got it?
me what is their biggest priority, right?
Got it.
I always find that employees are kind of the low hanging fruit because it's easy to frame, right? We can use the logic of like it's always easier to appreciate an employee than have to replace them,
Right.
right?
And I
So
feel
like
like
that
that's more normal, quote unquote. Like almost all companies do some sort of client or
employee.
employee appreciation. Some do. The best ones do client appreciation, but not all. So that's a good first step, obviously, and then back into it. Awesome. I still can't get over the example that I first used. That was hilarious. That is not getting edited out. Last question for you before we come up on time. What's something that I should have asked you today that would have helped our team?
Something you should have asked me today that could have helped our team. Well, we've kind of bounced around a lot. We talked about malls, we talked about biz gifts, talked about push weeks. There's a lot we've kind of discussed. Um, one thing, basically, one extra thing I could share to provide some value.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's a much easier way to put it. Yes. What's one more piece of value you can give us?
So I'll go through that like that 30-second kind of pitch
Yeah,
introducing the gifts that we were going to do.
please.
So I'll
Yeah.
do that for us to kind of wrap us up. So yeah, so I've identified, right, I kind of have the lay of the land with the client. So we use the bakery example, right? Um, and I asked the question, are you open to it? Kind of do kind of sporadic things, right? Is kind of what you told me, right? Gift cards,
Yep.
this. Yeah. So I'm curious, Brett. Did you know we actually do corporate gifting?
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, here, you got to check this out, man. Right? Grab the gift. Now I'm going to pitch the gift, right? So, yeah, so the great thing with us is we can actually take your brand, your logo, and we actually engrave it right on our product, and then you give it as your gift for your clients. And what's great about this is it's something it's a practical luxury. It's high quality, something they're going to use every single day. Imagine if you could get 200 to 300 touches with your best clients every single year, right?
Mm.
What kind of investment that would be with your clients? Gift cards, gift baskets, shirts, jackets, mugs, whatever. All this stuff's great, but it's really here today, gone tomorrow, right? And especially if you've been doing like the mugs and the pens and the jackets for years now, they probably already have like 5 or 10 jackets just from you. And they probably have jackets from other people too, right? This is something that people eat every day. So this is a practical gift that they're going to use 200 to 300 times a year, and keep you top of mind, right? And associate that positive feeling that they get with the product with you and your service and what you provide for them. And it actually increases your business through referrals because they're much more likely to talk and refer you when they know your name, they have you top of mind. They can, when this gift is going to get around their friends and family, their inner circle, when they're cooking at Thanksgiving or they're cooking at Christmas or having that barbecue, and their brother or sister, their business partners come over and they see that gift, their name's going to get brought up very organically, right, in a very positive way. Right. So I'm curious, Brett, would you be open to doubling or tripling your budget that you currently do for gifts to 10x the return on those gifts for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, or I'll ask it like, are you guys open to growing and enhancing your business through quality gifting? Like a
Mm,
question like that, right? And they say
love it.
yes, awesome, cool. So let me just get a little bit more information to see what would be the best route for us, right? Because we have a lot of different gifting options, and then from there, I'm going to go into like 7 other questions to get as much information from them as possible to then be able to close today or schedule follow up
We're
or pivot
just we're
the
just
conversation.
creaking open the door of the Cutco gifting program that's going to be released here. We're they're finishing it up. Keep an eye out. I think there is enough value here to ask Mike back for a second episode. On the second episode, we're going to ask him, how do you pitch corporate gifting to a company that does corporate gifting? Because that's almost what we got earlier today. And he was ready for it. He did not. I backed away, not him. Dude, I have constantly watched you give back just like you are today, to our Midwest region over the years in terms of training at the booth, training our trainers, event coordinators, cross training, being a guest in other divisions. But more than anything, man, I think your leadership by example has been so fun to watch in terms of not your sales, but your life. I think there are a lot of CSPs in our region that they believe they can build the life of their dreams here because they're watching people like you do it. So more than cool. Sales, SC2 pushes, those are fun. But leading by example personally has been really, really, I know it's meant a lot to our team, means a lot to me. So thank you, man.
Thank you for saying that, Brett. I appreciate having me on, man.
Dude, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't miss our upcoming CSP Hot Hands interviews with Adam Stock on November 28th, Josh Mueller on November 29th. Hey, get your questions submitted now at Linktree / all the serial offenders of last minute submissions are smiling on Zoom right now. Linktree /CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's Linktree /CSP60 with a dot before the 2 E's. And Brett Wiggins on December 12th. If you ever want to be a live Zoom audience member, just send me an email at bwiggins@vectormarketing.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. And for some of you watching, I want to remind you that all resources from today can be found at Linktree /CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's Linktree /CSP60 with a dot before the EE. If you want to be a member of our live Zoom audience for one of our upcoming shows, email bwiggins@vectormarketing.com. That's BWIGGINS@vectormarketing.com. If you loved what you heard today, I'd be honored if you followed, subscribed, or even rated us on whatever platform you use to find your 60 minutes of fire. We'll see you next time.